All of the heat that Sheriff Joe Arpaio is under from today's developments, he is still a highly coveted endorsement for any Republican politician. But one politician running for county attorney who is touting Arpaio's endorsement is accused of slamming the sheriff behind closed doors. And it was all caught on tape. We're talking about Bill Montgomery, who is running against Rick Romley for county attorney. Now, this conversation was recorded back in April, but it is resurfacing today in an attack ad run by Rick Romley, less than 2 weeks before the primary election. I want to thank you for joining us and talking about this, Mr. Montgomery. Thanks for being here tonight.
Sure thing, Carrie.
Appreciate it. Well, in one of the conversations, we obviously couldn't play the whole thing. It was 38 minutes long, but you allude to what amounts to, I guess you could say, a senior moment that Sheriff Arpaio was having after a meeting you had with him. Let's take a listen here.
He segued from telling stories about his family, past Valentine's Days, and that sort of thing. And then an aide came in and said, "Oh, Sheriff, you telling Valentine's Day stories again. Well, we need to let Mr. Montgomery go." And it was a little bit like, and I don't want to disparage him, but it was a little bit like someone coming into a nursing home room and saying, "Well, visiting hours are over now."
How do you respond to that?
Well, you know, that was part of an hour-long conversation, and there are only 38 minutes that have been disclosed. And that was also part of what I was describing to Don Stapley as the sheriff being under the weather. He was suffering from the flu that day. And the entire conversation was an effort to try to talk elected officials back off the ledge where, you know, there's been so much rancor, and today's no different, between elected officials. And I was trying to get Don to understand that, you know, the sheriff's a human being.
Yeah.
And, you know, that day he was definitely under the weather. And let's be clear. The sheriff is not a candidate for a nursing home. I wish I had his kind of energy and drive after all these years of public service.
I understand. It was 38 minutes. I listened to the entire thing. At the very end, you hear a conversation about the last time you heard him speak. You say he talked for 20 minutes, about 15 minutes too long. And the last 5 minutes was the same thing he said the first 5 minutes. It was like somebody who pressed replay and started over. Do you think the sheriff's getting too old for his job?
No, absolutely not. You know, Carrie, I've had the opportunity to campaign him with that throughout Maricopa County now for the last 3 months. And he's fully engaged. He loves being out there with the voters. And I think he's doing a fine job for us. I know there are his detractors and critics, but people in Maricopa County love the job that the sheriff does. He reports to them. He doesn't report to other elected officials. And I'm looking forward to working with him.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I want to play another sound, or some more sound from this interview, or this actually conversation, I should say, where you describe the turf battle going on between the county attorney's office and the sheriff's office with the county board of supervisors. Basically, what Rick Romley laid out today, and it almost sounds like you agree with Rick Romley, your opponent, in the primary. Take a listen.
It's just a turf battle. I never started playing those games. It's been too destructive, and I'm hearing it from the base out there. They don't like it either. Yeah, so.
It sounds like you're referring to the Republican base. There is the Republican base telling you that they're tired of Sheriff Arpaio and they're maybe afraid of his power?
No, not at all. And Carrie, again, to make sure we put this into context, as I related to each member of the Board of Supervisors and every elected official in Maricopa County, I spoke to all of them. I told them that as you went around the county, half of the people were divided, that they wanted to blame the board for what was going on. The other half wanted to blame the sheriff or the county attorney. Everybody, though, was sick and tired of the games. And I think we've seen it play it out again here today. You know, and I offer voters a fresh start. I don't have this institutional conflict. And it's unfortunate that a county official used county resources to tape a county employee who was trying to get away from the very sort of thing that they're now using the tape to do, which is to try to create discord among individuals seeking to serve the people of Maricopa County. It's wrong, and it needs to stop.
And this happened back in April. I want to ask you one more question. I want to get your response to one more part of that conversation. SB 1070, everyone knows, has been driving the polls. And it sounds like in this portion of the conversation, you're insinuating that you think the rhetoric has been damaging. I'm sure other Republicans and Democrats would agree with you. And you lay out your plans to move what sounds like in the opposite direction of the way things have been going in the past month or two.
We've got a marketing team designed both with typical earned media operations, but also with a specific intent on engaging the Hispanic community. and involving them in the campaign and future operations of the county attorney's office to eliminate what has become an ethnic and racial divide within the party.
Did you call the Republican Party the ethnic and racial divide party there?
No. What I was referring to was that, the issue as it has been played out, and we've seen it particularly illustrated now with SB 1070, which I want to point out was not under consideration at the time this conversation occurred. There have been efforts to try to divide the party along ethnic and racial lines. That's what I was referring to. And I don't want to be a part of that either. The Republican Party should be home to all who seek the opportunity to become the men and women God created them to be, and who believe in limited government, economic freedom, and individual responsibility. And what I don't want to see happen are individuals who would take the issue of illegal immigration and try to use it as a wedge issue. I don't care whether that's those who are on the extreme right or those on the extreme left. Enforcing the law, the rule of law, is an inherent part of what it is to be a Republican. And that goes to the fact that in this particular instance, we've got a county official and now Rick Romley using what in essence was the proceeds of unethical conduct in order to try to make a political point, and that's wrong. It shouldn't happen.
Mr. Montgomery, I want to thank you so much for coming down. I know the sheriff, despite all of this, says he still supports you, so either he really thinks highly of you or he thinks very a bad opinion of Rick Romley, but either way, he's still endorsing you, and we thank you for coming down and addressing this situation tonight. Thanks for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you. And I look forward to working with the sheriff on behalf of everybody in Maricopa County. We're going to do good things for the people.
Thank you. Bill Montgomery tonight.